Hello, everyone. So, if we are checking Transformer Twitter in the last couple days, there's been kind of a fervor building up, and not for anything I would ever expect. There is actual excitement in the Transformer community for Super 7's reaction figures. If you don't know, like the reaction figures are those like super small, like 3 3/4 inch ones that are built like the old Star Wars 3 3/4 inches. Uh, so like old school, like late 70s, early 80s construction. And normally I hate them because considering that considering they are 6-piece toys with 4 points of articulation, I never understand the appeal because I never understand the appeal I get. The pricing, because these are like $16 or something. It's that small and barely does anything. I don't understand how they're so expensive. But never mind that grievance. Never mind that grievance. Someone saw this. Some eagle-eyed person noticed that on the back of a recent one discovered that there's a bunch of unannounced ones on the cross sale. So like there's a Quintesson, a Sharkticon, things that we have not gotten yet. So kind of cool. But the one that has everyone up in arms is this. A 6-inch Unicron, and inexplicably, for whatever reason, it is designed based on his original toy rather than the animation model. To this point, all of the Super 7 releases have been based on animation models. So, out of nowhere, we got one based on Unicron's original G1 prototype toy. And no one knows why. I am kind of suspecting it has something to do with how much easier it is to engineer since you don't have the big skeletal wings to worry about. But that is mere speculation on my part. For whatever reason, Super 7 decided we're going to do the G1 Unicron toy that has never had any kind of physical plastic produced at retail for it. So, kind of fascinating, really. So at this point, I thought, let's take a look back at Unicron's library of toys just to kind of see where we are as far as Unicron collecting goes. So if we're going to be talking about the original Unicron prototype and explain exactly what you're seeing here and why Unicron's packing, why he's got a rifle in his hand, we have to start with the original prototype by Takara. This was produced back when the character wasn't even Unicron. It was the Entity with a completely different color scheme. I'll show you here in a bit, but you can see it is a pretty small Unicron. This probably would have been about Metroplex size if it had actually been produced. And you can see there's some rudimentary electronics in it. There was going to be some kind of electronic feature to it. You have a moon that orbited, and the moon itself turned into a laser for him. So when Hasbro said they wanted the figure to be bigger, Takara scrapped this prototype. So this is as far as this one made it. And if we take a look at the original production art for Unicron, you can see not only the different coloration going on here, but also the ring of the planet is completely wrong. And then you wonder, how does he chomp down on anything with a ring in front of his mouth? Look, like Unicron's wearing like a retainer or like old-fashioned braces. So that's the original. That's the original Unicron prototype. It is built on to create the one that everyone knows, which is the Unicron prototype for G1, and that's where we get our basis for the Super 7 reaction figure. It's a big, chunky beast. Pretty simplistic in design. The head tucks in to create the maw. The legs just go straight into the body, which is actually accurate to how he transformed in the movie. And then the rings are extra fat to make up the arms, so he doesn't have the skeletal wings at all. Now, it's important to note that when this toy was originally produced, it was going to be the biggest Transformer they had ever made. However, later on, just a year later, it would actually be trumped by Fortress Maximus, who is taller than the G1 Unicron prototype. So, if you're trying to picture scale in your head, think about there. The whole reason this got canceled was because of cost concerns. Obviously, it's a hugely expensive toy to produce even back then. There were problems with the arms being a fairly faulty connection and a faulty voice chip. There was actually going to be voice chip in this toy. You can actually see the speaker of it on his chest. This is an unfortunate thing. You would have loved to have a toy from the 80s that had Orson Welles' voice playing on it. So, alas, too many production problems to justify actually producing this thing as a fully fledged toy. We do have, however, the original blueprint of it that would have gone to the trademark and patent office, and you can see a few different elements to it. One of which was that the planet would have had a base that it could attach to, which then formed a rifle. Hey, we got there. We've unlocked the mystery. What I love is that as big as Unicron is, he also would have been a shell former. You can see the part that covered up his speaker that has to get folded up and put on his arm. So even back then, he would have been a shell former. So that's prototype that never really happened. And there is one more of those if we go into Beast Wars Neo and we get that Unicron. And everyone thought this was the one that was going to make it because we saw like photos of it in like we saw trade photos of it. Like it actually appeared at toy shows in Japan. And this was before the internet was really savvy about getting information out of Japan. So like this had everyone super excited. We're actually getting a Unicron. This was actually fairly small. What would have been like about like old school leader class. So nothing terribly huge. Big for Beast Wars, but you know, not terribly gigantic or anything. And according to reps that are familiar with the toy, the statement was that if you played with it in hand, you wouldn't want it. So there were obviously some very major design flaws to this that just didn't make it a fun figure. And I think half of that had to do with the fact that half of his planet mode just hangs off of his back and the rest hangs off his arms. I mean, you could compare that to the current Unicron, but that's just semantics at this point. I'll give you a closer view before we move on here to toys that actually came out. So you get an idea of just how it was supposed to be built. Supposedly, some of the design concept of this went into Primus, but that's, from what I know, speculation more than anything, because there are similarities to how the two are engineered. And then in the planet mode, you would have had like an actual closing jaw gimmick, so you actually would have been able to eat planets should you have another planet, and that's a semblance of a ring in the like parallel to the maw configuration. So a little accidentally put in some of the original like version 1 Unicron in there. All right, so how about something that actually came out? Because we had to wait till Armada to get a fully transforming, functioning Unicron, and this was a fantastic toy. In 2003, the Toy Fair magazine said it was the best toy of the year. You know, when you wait 16 years for a fully fledged Unicron toy, like you're gonna say any of them are the best, but this is a legitimately fantastic figure. It's very well articulated, very solidly built, tons of gimmicks and functions in it that makes it a pretty fun piece of engineering. So Hasbro nailed this one. Aside from being a little bit egg-shaped in the planet mode, everything else about this toy was actually really, really good. This was so good that it got reused quite a bit. In the Energon line, they actually overproduced Unicron to the point where when Energon's first wave of Supreme class figures shipped, they still had the original color scheme of Unicron, just because they had so many overmade in the factory. It was supposed to be this color, which did eventually make it to retail, probably in far fewer numbers than they originally planned to, though. It's an interesting color scheme. It's not one that a Unicron has replicated since, but it does give you that zombified, like Unicron was destroyed and killed in the previous series kind of vibe to it. So like it's fun, you know. It's a menacing color scheme, if anything. Now the mold itself was pretty popular, so it also got a lucky draw based on the Minicon Energy version that fought Unicron toward the end of the series. This is actually the lucky draw version. There is a modern version that was released, and that one included I think that one went for all green in all of its plastic colors. And so it's just kind of a variation of this one, but it's a but it's actually, I believe, the newest release of this particular mold. It's not that old. And let's see, and this goes further. This goes further. So Hasbro, or Takara rather, as an anniversary piece, remolded the toy to have much more G1 accurate features, including the head and the chest, which now look about as close to the original G1 model as they could get within that toy's limitations. You can also see the coloration was done up far closer to the original toy. I want to say it did away with the translucent plastic too, but don't hold me to that because I've never actually held one of these before, or any of its variations. So this was done by Takara originally. Hasbro did it themselves. Hasbro actually did just a straight up re-release of the Armada one in Universe, and then did their own variations. There's 2 other versions that are similar to this, but just slightly different colored with all the new tooling attached. So there's a lot of different versions trying to get this one as unique or at least as accurate to G1 Unicron as they could, because it was the only option for a long, long time, and that would be true for a long, long time. That doesn't mean the Unicron character stops, though, because it's a popular character. This, of course, is Cybertron Unicron, representing him trying to recreate his form from the ground up. And this is a tank Unicron at the deluxe class. In fiction, the few little fiction that exists, it is still, very, very large. But the concept of it is basically like one round shell of the planet that he's trying to reform himself into that currently is just a vehicle. So it's like a very smooth shell of a tank. That weird shell, like smooth vehicle mode, actually led to this being released in Japan as Arc Unicron due to the similarities to the Autobot Arc that it had in vehicle mode. Super bizarre take, but there you go. So, not a bad figure. Scary neck assembly. Clear plastic, super tight. You get you know my thing by now. But still, interesting figure. And a mold that was never actually reused for anything. I think everyone was expecting Bludgeon out of this mold for some reason. Never happened. If we want to talk newer molds, we have to go to Transformers Prime. This is Gaia Unicron. Never came out in America. It's a bizarre one. So, it transforms not into a planet. It transforms into what kind of looks like Unicron's head sticking out of a mountain kind of thing. It's weird. It's weird. It's like if they made a toy out of Unicron's floating head from Season 3 of Transformers. That's kind of where it goes. But because in Transformers Prime, Unicron is actually Earth, spoilers for an old cartoon, spoilers for a 15-year-old cartoon, so there are some rocky, more like earthy elements to how he is designed. So it does come across pretty unique amongst Unicrons. This one was recolored a few times. There is I can't remember, I want to say Year of the Snake Unicron that was chromed. So trying to give it a little bit more of a special feel to it. And then there was Nightmare Unicron, which looks absolutely wicked. He doesn't even look like Unicron anymore. He looks like something from the modern Diaclone line, if I'm being honest here. Now, this toy was already weird enough because it's Unicron turning into this spaceship mountain head thing. But what makes it weirder, and what we never got an explanation of, it has a combined mode. It can combine not with Megatron, but with Optimus Prime. And no one could figure out why a Unicron toy would combine with Optimus. Super bizarre. Super bizarre. Never figured that out. It's not even a good combination. But it exists, so let's point it out. Weirdness. And then, of course, we have the HasLab Unicron. We all know about this one. I will never own it because it's now way too expensive for my budget. Still regret not picking it up. Yeah, And that's as best as we're going to get for a modern, like, Hasbro official Unicron. You can tell me all about your cells and your third-party Unicrons. I get it. Every time I talk about Transformers, someone goes, but a third party did it better. I don't care. I want something official that actually supports the brand, because if it's not supported, the brand stops existing. So this could have been done better. It probably could have been done with a lot less shell. I'll give you credit. Third-party companies did come up with engineering for a Unicron that seems to function better than Hasbro's, but it's still like a historic and monumental piece for Transformers to do. The fact that it even exists is something of a small miracle. The fact that it functions is another one on top of that. So we'll give it credit for where credit's due. And, you know, maybe for some weird reason, Hasbro will decide to just put it out again, or like a limited re-release or something. Like, technically, as long as they change the details on it a little bit, alter the colors or something, there's no reason why they couldn't, you know? So, that could, who knows? Who knows? But there's just a few other weird ones we should cover before we put a cap on this video. So, for a lot of us, the only, like, G1 Unicron you could get for a long time was this guy. He is a tiny little 3-inch titanium Unicron, inexplicably holding a moon in one of his hands, and then waving with the other. Just like, hi, Cybertron. I found your moon. Your moon. I think your moon was trying to run away. You should really put it on a leash. When I got this thing, the paint job on it was so bad. Like, they tried to put a black wash on it to bring out the details. It was so badly done, like, you could literally scrape it off with your finger, and not in the grooves, on the surface of the toy that wasn't supposed to have the black wash on it anymore. It felt terrible. Like, it felt tacky, it felt messy. Like, you could tell it's not well made. But for a long time, it was literally the only way to have a Unicron in your collection, sadly enough. And there's other tiny Unicrons we could talk about. There's the Robot Heroes that came 2-packed with Optimus Prime opening the Matrix. Because, of course, the most famous scene with Unicron is Optimus Prime opening the Matrix. Justice for Rodimus. Justice for Rodimus. You can't take his... I know the Matrix became Optimus's thing. That already kind of sucks because it's supposed to be Rodimus's thing. But don't take his one win, okay? Alright? Rodimus has one good credit to his name. Defeated Unicron. Don't take that from him. Little salty. But... it's not the strangest Unicron. These two tiny Unicrons are not the strangest ones. The strangest one is the newest one. The Tiny Titans Unicron. The smallest Unicron of them all. Who is barely painted, has no wings, and for some reason is brandishing a butcher's knife. No one knows why. I can explain the gun on the reaction figure. I cannot explain why he's just holding a hatchet. But... that is your most recent Unicron toy, and about where I have to end off this video. There's tons of other merchandise. There's statues and busts and pencil holders of Unicron's head, but, you know, that gets into the merchandise category, and I'm here to talk about toys, you know, and this is where I have to end. So, thank you everyone for watching. Hope you learned something. Hope you at least had a laugh at how weird Unicron has been over the years. And when Super 7 releases this prototype Unicron, it's going to get weirder. So, enjoy your Unicrons. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.